Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm right here, right behind this massive beast of a truck. You might think that this is just your average Ford F-150, but that is incorrect, my friend. Underneath, we have a Whipple supercharger attached to this 5-liter V8. This is for sale right here at Urban Motors, and I'm gonna link this down in the description if you're interested in this. So what we're gonna have a look at here is, of course, the front end design, which has the Raptor features to it, and all around actually, the side view, the rear. We're gonna have a look at the interior, and then we're gonna see how this Whipple charger with 775 horsepower actually drives. The base truck that this is based on is actually a Ford F-150 Platinum, but the rest of the graphics of the exterior is pretty much all Ford Raptor. You have these logos in the front end. This is a Raptor grille. You have the Raptor position lights up here being wider than 80 inches. Need to have those on there. And down here you have an ADD bumper with rigid lights mounted inside of them, both for the massive headlights that you have here and also the fog lights that you have, or ditch lights that you have in the side, also rigid light. Steel all around to tackle those big trails. Now, this being all black, I do like that they added the King shocks onto this trucks as well, because it adds a splash of color underneath here, looking pretty nice. It definitely sets it apart, and it makes you wonder what this thing is. So this is the external reservoir for the shocks itself, sitting all the way in front here underneath this steel bumper. And up top, of course, we have the, as I said, the Raptor grille with the camera, front mounted camera located right here. And what I love about this front end generally of the Ford Raptor is that we have a clear separation with the top graphics right here with this framing, because you have this black body color going around and framing it at the lower part as well with this little section. And underneath this section up top, we have all the functionality and the more industrial feel of the front end of the truck. Coming around to these headlight units here, they're first of all massive, and I do love what Ford has done with the daytime run lights going around this piece here, creating a very strong identity for the truck when you see it out on the road, specifically at night. Then you have the position lights here at the very end as well. This looks like it came straight out of the Raptor in addition to everything else that goes on in the front end. And last but not least, you have this big chamfer, Raptor chamfer that we have going here. And this is a detail that I love about every single generation Ford F-150 Raptor. They added that thickness because how else are you going to integrate such a wider fender and have that be smooth in here? It would look pretty weird. So they decided, let's just make it a wide fender and then just create a big old chamfer right here to connect it with the rest of the body. And I love that integration. It makes it feel very purposeful. So coming around to the side view of this very special Ford F-150, you have the same, I definitely recognize these wheels because these are the same wheels that I have on my Ram Rebel, but in bronze. So we do have the 20-inch Fuel Rebel wheels with the Nitto tires, and these are 35-inch tires. The thing is, I don't want to go up to 37s on a F-150. I think they look maybe a little too big. I think 35s like we have here, you can see how well they fit the wheel well. And in this case, it looks like they only, I could be wrong here, but it looks like they only went with a leveling kit in this case to fit these 35-inch tires on here. And I do like this look better when you have it leveled like this, instead of having, for example, a 2.5 or 3.5-inch lift. This looks more planted on the ground, but still have plenty of play with the suspension. Now, this being essentially a Ford Raptor with 775 horsepower, you do have the same fenders in the side. And what I love about these fenders inside, them being wider than the stock F-150, is that we have this line here. You see this line and how it goes back and wraps into this section. We also have another line in the fender here going in here and fades right before it meets this chamfer of the taillight, creating this almost triangular shape that I'm sketching out right here. And the same goes for the front end. We do have the same treatment in the front end fender with this outtake or air vent right here, functional air vent for the hot air that comes out of the engine bay. But you still have this line here that I'm talking about, creating, again, a almost, if you look at it from a right angle, you're gonna see a triangle going something like this. And I think it's a beautiful touch to kind of sculpt the added width that you have on the Raptor fenders. A couple of more details here on the side. For example, with the Platinum, you do get the retractable side step right there, which I think is a pretty neat function to have. And looking at the greenhouse here in this Ford F-150, I've talked about this when I reviewed the normal Raptor, is if you want to know that you're looking at an F-150, just look at the greenhouse design and this line going and dipping right here. This will give you a much better angle when you sit in the driver's seat or the passenger seat. For example, you're going off-road, you want to see all those rocks. Having this carved out here gives you more mass of glass, or more glass surface, giving you a better angle to view those obstacles closer to the front axle. So when they built this truck, they didn't just focus on the front end with the ADD bumper. They added a Fab Force rear bumper in this case, also of course all metal, and we also have Borla exhausts for this setup. This sounds absolutely fantastic. We're going to take a listen to that in just a minute. And you can see here that this is also straight out of the Ford Raptor. You even have the Raptor logo right here in this deck lid. We have a very similar integration of the taillights here with these wider fenders like we have in the front end. Not as aggressive of a chamfer in the rear like we have in the front, but I still think it looks very almost industrial and simplistic to have this integration of the wide fender volume here, and then it needs to go down before it meets the taillight here. So they added again this chamfer that is very typical for the Raptor Ford products. I do love these taillights as well. It has a connection to the front end, very thick and juicy LED going on the side, and I just think it looks very, very cool. Now the tailgate of this F-150 and pretty much every other one as well is pretty standard stuff. There's no complicated folds in here. It is damped when it goes down, which I think is a nice touch. You should have that on the Platinum truck anyway. And you have some stuff in here that is added parts, for example, this separation piece here. But other than that, it's a pretty normal truck when it comes to the rear end functionality. Welcome to the interior of this rather unique Ford F-150, and in here it feels very familiar if you're used to the newer generations F-150s. We do have a 12-inch gauge cluster, a 12-inch infotainment screen as well, with the very functional, easy to use vents on the side. Up here you have a couple of additional buttons, for example, hill control, hill descent control, traction control, hazard lights, parking sensors, and the camera buttons. And further down we do have the same kind of controls that we have in every single F-150. For the volume control knob and the tuning, the radio control settings are all analog. You have the trail brake control here, the drive mode select with this toggle or this dial, and you have 2-wheel high, 4-wheel low, and 4-wheel auto in this specific truck. You also have, of course, the same physical buttons for the climate control here, and I do love how you adjust the temperature here. It's very easy. The fan speed, I love that it has a specific button for it. You have the heated steering wheel, the heated seats, and the cooled seats in both the front seats right here. To the right side of the buttons in the middle, you do have a 12-volt outlet and a 120-volt house outlet here, which is super useful if you want to plug in, for example, a vacuum or something like that. But you know what? I'm gonna fire this up because it's getting pretty hot in here. So hopefully it's not going to make too much noise when I'm recording this, because we do have, remember, 5-liter V8 up front with 775 horsepower, but we also have the Borla exhausts. But I want to show you a couple of things here in this infotainment screen and what it can do. It's pretty easy to use. You do have these pages to the right side of the screen where you can scroll down and do the navigation. You can do the audio, the phone system, and trips, and a lot of different things, fuel economy. On the left part of the screen, you have all the other settings. So let's go into vehicle here. We do have a bunch of different settings that you can do here. Valet, zone limit, the easy entry, exit, and stuff like this. So there's a lot of stuff that you can configure inside of this system, and it's very responsive as well. Let's go into the maps here and see how well you can toggle the map and navigate with your finger. It is very responsive, this screen, and I like that. 12 inches feels like a pretty good size to have in this type of size of vehicle as well. It feels right. Maybe an 8-inch would be a little small in this specific frame that we have here, so this fills out the entire framing for the infotainment screen. Further down, we do have the wireless charging underneath this very nice looking wooden cover for it. You also have a USB, a normal one, and a USB-C, and you can store a couple of big pens and maybe a few markers down here. Actually, it's pretty big. Looking at the center console down here, it's pretty basic as well. You have 2 cup holders. You have this big chunky gear shifter right here, which you can fold down like that if you want to do that, and then you can fold this up, and again, you can do all your CAD modeling with your laptop here and design your next F-150 or the additional pieces that you want to go, aftermarket pieces. You can do all that modeling right here on your laptop. And on the side of this gear shifter, you also have, if you want to go manual and shift manually, you do have the plus and minus on the side of this, so you don't get the Raptor pedals in this Platinum edition, which I think I'm fine with. Looking at the center console here, you can open this whole thing up and you have a bunch, massive storage down here. Any size sketchbooks you want, you can fit them all in here. You also have this little tray for your additional markers. Moving further down, you do have cup holders for the rear seats as well. And I do love these seats, these Platinum seats, with the little stitching in the middle and the Platinum in the backrest. And you also have the Bang & Olufsen speakers in the headrests, and the headrest itself is perforated so the sound can blast right in the back of your head. I do like these seats. I think they're beautiful. I think they suit the Platinum trim to be more of the luxurious end of styling than sporty. But then again, you do have this powertrain, so it kind of feels like maybe they should have gone with the Raptor seats in this specific version. I'm not sure. Up top, we do have a massive panoramic sunroof. Not sure how we close this section. Let's see if we can figure it out right here. There we go. So I'm just going to keep this closed so it doesn't get too toasty in here. And this gauge cluster, I love the integration that Ford does with their gauge clusters. It just looks sharp and crisp with this high resolution and colorful. And you can switch between different setups, any type of layout you want. Usually you do have the tachometer to the left, speedometer to the right, pretty normal setup. But if you use these buttons right here, these arrows, you can scroll through a variety of different layouts for the gauge cluster, and that's what you want when you have all pixels moving around, because why not? Looking at this steering wheel, it's a beautiful looking steering wheel. It looks very truck-like, which I like. You do have this metal feel in the bottom part with Platinum stamped into the lower section of the steering wheel. Square centerpiece, and you have the controls for the gauge cluster and the modification you want to do that. You have those buttons right here on the right. To the left, you have the cruise control and the volume buttons as well. Moving on to the doors, also very truck-like, which means it's very static and functional design with a huge storage compartment in the lower section of the door. We also have the same metallic trim that we have on the steering wheel right here coming back in the doors, which I love. Nice contrast stitching with this brown that comes with the Platinum, and you also have some of that wood piece in the upper part of the door, and in addition to the Bang & Olufsen speaker that sets this off a little bit in color-wise with this lighter silver trim. I think it overall looks very good, and it's also very, very functional. Last but not least, we do have a massive glove box right here. With that said, we've talked about the front end of the interior. Let's jump into the back and let's see how I can fit behind my own driving position. Okay, stepping in to the rear seat back here, and this passenger seat in front is actually further back than my personal driving position, and I'm 6'1", and I have, of course, it's a F-150. You're gonna have tons of space to lounge back here. You do have a big pocket in the seats in front of you. You also have heated seats in two different settings, two different levels, and a cigarette outlet. Vents are very easy to use. You also have, again, a house 120 volt outlet in addition to a couple of USB, one normal and one USB-C down here. So all good in the back seat of this F-150. We've talked about the exterior changes to this specific F-150 and the interior as well, but now it's time for the part that everybody, I think, has been waiting for. The car is already fired up, so let's hear how this sounds with the supercharger up front and the Borla exhaust in the back. Alrighty guys, taking this Ford F-150, not a Raptor, close to it, 775 horsepower beast for a drive, connected to the same 10-speed automatic that we have in the normal F-150. 0 to 60, I mean, who knows? We're just gonna have some fun here and see what this can do. It sounds so good with that supercharger up front. It sounds fantastic. I love supercharger noise. I'm not sure which I prefer the most, turbo noise or supercharger noise. Both sound really good in their own kind of way. I think this is a pretty cool configuration of this truck, because on the inside you have all the luxuries of a Ford F-150 Platinum, but the performance pieces are close to that of the Raptor when it comes to suspension and so on. We do have aftermarket suspension here, but the exterior design looks like a Raptor with different bumpers front and rear. So it's a cool mix between sport F-150, and inside you have all the luxury features you need. So let's turn around here. It's a lot of traffic today, so we can't really pull it too much. But I'm gonna see what we can do here up front. If there's not a lot of traffic behind us, I'm gonna give some distance to the car in front of me, and then we're stepping on it and see what the Supercharger is all about. There's no one behind me. I have plenty of space to the cars in front of me. So let's step on it and let's see what's going on here. Every time I get into a truck that drives like this, it almost feels a little bit unnatural for it to be able to do these kind of things, because the mass of the vehicle is so big, but it still pulls really well. I did expect it to pull a little harder than what it does right here with 775 horsepower. The power really builds up as you go through the revs, so I think that has a lot to do with it. You have to keep it in a specific rev area, but that feels more like a turbo car to me, but it's still very fun to drive this thing, and it's just a beast, specifically with, I love the Fuel Rebels. Those are the same wheels I chose for my truck, and just looks great with the 35-inch tires. Big thanks again to Urban Motors here in Denver for providing this vehicle for me to review for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna link this car and their entire inventory down in the description. If you're interested in this specific vehicle, go and check it out at urbanmotors.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.